Okay, hello and welcome. Chris here, T-Titan, and in this short video I want to introduce the second step, which is generating and launching our designs. So previous to this we've settled on a good niche, ideally several good niches, and this step is really about brainstorming design ideas within that niche, choosing the best ones, creating several designs at once, and actually creating the design images so we can put them on Teespring in preparation for the final stage, step 3, which is to launch them on Facebook ads. So as I say, at this point, ideally we have a good niche. In fact, ideally we have several good niches. And again, this is a recurring theme within T-Titan. We want to have lots of different niches at once, lots of different designs within those niches. We basically want lots of options. And part of the reason for that is because, again, we are going to be doing this accelerated testing where we throw out lots of things, see what sticks on the wall, and get rid of the stuff that doesn't and expand the stuff that does. And in order to do that, for that to make sense, we want to have lots of niches and lots of designs to test with. And then the second reason that we want to have several niches ideally is that a key thing as well is when we do this kind of testing, it's important that we don't become emotionally wedded to any particular design or any particular niche. You know, we really need to feel like we've got lots of options, and we don't get too upset if one of them doesn't work out because there's another 10 lined up behind it. So at this point, you should hopefully have at least one niche that you can apply this second step to, if not several. And by a good niche, if you remember from the previous step, from the previous videos, a good niche is basically one that firstly we can reach on Facebook ads, i.e. there's an audience of between 100,000 to a million people that we can reach via interests, via targeting Facebook interests with Facebook ads. Secondly, we believe the niche is filled with passionate buyers. So we've looked at the market, we've tried to understand the psychology a little bit. Some of that has probably come through as we've looked at the t-shirt designs, we've looked at the Facebook interests. We've maybe even done a few searches on Amazon and eBay just to try and understand what people are buying in the niche. And we can see that it is a good niche very generally. And then finally, we want to see that there are t-shirts selling already. So ideally, we want to see t-shirts selling on several sites. You might remember that I was a little bit a bit of mixed feelings towards Teespring. It's good to see some sales on Teespring, but at the same time I don't like to see too much competition on there because that can be a bad sign. But certainly we do want to see t-shirts on eBay, Amazon, Zazzle, Redbubble, Etsy. We want to see t-shirt ideas on Pinterest, t-shirt ideas on Google Images. You know, the ideal really is not too many t-shirts selling on Teespring, but lots of t-shirts selling in other places, and that suggests almost a kind of arbitrage opportunity where we can be the first ones to come in and really make the niche work on Teespring. But certainly, ideally, we want to see some t-shirts that are selling. And only if we have all of these three things lined up in our crosshairs can we then move on to the next stage, which is the design stage. And the good news, this is actually a fun and creative stage, especially with my software. So the software that you're about to use, both the T-Searcher and also the Auto Designer, it makes a lot of the stuff that was previously the grunt work, the tiring, the boring stuff, it makes it much easier. And if anything, you know, if nothing else, it's quite a fun, enjoyable stage. So here's how we approach the process of creating our designs. The first thing we need to do is we need to understand what makes a good design, and we need to constantly remind ourselves what makes a good design, because the temptation will be to try and create something that's artistic or something that's you personally like, or something that is kind of arbitrary and not based on the science of what works with Teespring. So we really do need to constantly remind ourselves what makes a good design, and that's something that I will go through in the next slide, and it will hopefully become apparent as we move through this particular step. Once we have a broad sense of what makes a good design, the next step is to go and search for design ideas. So we can search on Teespring, of course, but we can also search on these other sites, the eBays, the Amazons, the Redbubbles. And this is something you can do with the T-Searcher software, and it's something you can also do manually as well. But basically what we want to do is cast the net as wide as possible, get as many different t-shirt ideas, and ones that are proven, ones that are selling, ones that look good, ones that have a lot of likes, a lot of ads, ones that, you know, you see the same kind of design, the same word, the same logo, the same iconography, you see the same kind of style in a lot of different places. And so the more that we search, the more that we can get a sense for what really works in that particular market. The next step is that we want to write down a list. So essentially this is a long list of all the website URLs or the web addresses or the t-shirts basically, or slogans or quotes or things that you think could be turned into a t-shirt. So this is literally like, between 5 and 50 maybe URLs that you've just gone to eBay. Yeah, that's a design. I think we could do something similar. Let me just copy and paste that link. Amazon, oh, that's a really good design. It's got a good bestseller rank. That seems to be selling well. Let me copy that one. Teespring, oh, that one seems to be doing quite well actually. I've seen a few people do that, and it's also quite old, so we could maybe even do something with that one. Pinterest, oh, that's a clever slogan. I've not seen that anywhere. That might work. And basically just build up this long list of designs, of references, of examples of things within the niche that could be turned into t-shirt design ideas that you think can work. And again, we've got this idea of building up lots of options and not being wedded to any of them because we've got this long list. Then what I like to do is I like to leave it maybe a day, a few hours, 24 hours, 48 hours, return to the list, go through the list and pick generally between 3 and 5 ones that I think are the best ones. And then at that point we move on to the design stage, which is that we create our design. We can either do it ourselves or we can hire a designer to do it. And this is all very easy. I'll show you how to do it within these videos. It's very simple. And then the final step is we put the design live, so we upload it to Teespring and our first design goes live on the internet. People can buy it, we can drive traffic to it, all very exciting. And again, as I've mentioned, it's important that we have options. We should aim to have between 3 and 5 designs ready for each new niche test that we enter. I've mentioned this several times, even just within this video. We really do want to have lots of options and several designs going into each test. And part of the reason for that is when we put our initial design live, what we want to be able to do is if it doesn't work, if as soon as those stats come in and we see that none of the numbers look particularly encouraging, we can quickly upload a new design into that Facebook ad, pause the old one, and then we can just quickly repeat that process. So it's possible, and I'm not saying that it's encouraged to be this quick with the data, but it's possible that you can test 4 or 5 designs for as little as $10 or $15. And I'm not saying that that's the best way to approach it scientifically, but it is possible to do that. So it's important that we do have several designs lined up, several options whenever we enter these new niches that we've not been in before. So again, what makes a good design? And this is probably one of the most important slides in all of T-Tyson, and there's a lot of slides that contain good information, but if there's one that you're going to pause the video and write everything down, this is the time to do it. So what makes a good design? Well, I've put here proven metrics, and that's certainly true. In the case of Teespring, although again, as always, I've got kind of mixed feelings about copying Teespring designs. But in the case of Teespring, we can see how many it's sold. In the case of eBay, we can also see if a design has sold previously, especially if we start to use advanced searches and look at completed item searches. With Amazon, we can see sales rank. With Pinterest, we can't see sales, of course, because Pinterest is just a social network. People don't buy stuff on there, but we can see pins. We can see how many repins, how many times something's been shared. With Nalo, Etsy, several of these sites either have ads or favorite options, and these are metrics, these are numbers that we can look at to get a rough sense of how how popular a particular design idea might be. And many other sites such as Sumfrog, I think Zazzle as well, have a Facebook-like icon, so you can see how many times a particular design has been liked, even if it doesn't show up as sales. And you can also, with these sites, you can also arrange a lot of them by best selling, so you can kind of get a rough sense for the general order in which they're selling and which are the most popular. The other thing when I talk about metrics is that how many times does a particular design appear on the internet. So if you see the same design on Teespring and you see three versions of it and they've all sold, and then you go to eBay same design, it's selling well. Amazon, same design. Pinterest, 10 different images that basically say the same thing as the design. Zazzle, Redbubble. When you go to all these sites and you see the exact same design doing very, very well. Now, it's entirely possible that that design might have been rinsed. There might have been too many people who've sold it already. But what we can do is we can look at what that design's about. We can look at the images, the icons. We can look at the text, the font, any particular words that appear, and we can realize that those are good words, that those are proven words. So even if you don't use a particular design because it's out there too much, at the very least you should look to extract proven words, proven icons, proven colors, proven aspects of a particular design, even if you don't use the entire design. And that's something that will come with time. So really what we want to do is to look at what's popular in the market, both in terms of designs and also in terms of words, in terms of phrases, in terms of icons that get used a lot, color schemes, things of that nature, and use that as our starting point for what we believe is going to be a good design in the niche. The second thing that constitutes a good design is that it fits perfectly with our targeting and our Facebook audience. Now, as I've mentioned, in the first step, all we're doing at that point is just looking to find a good audience. And part of that is that we do check to see if we can advertise on Facebook, if there are interests that are available. We don't go into too much detail there. We don't spend 7 or 8 hours getting the best targeting setup or something crazy. But we do spend a few minutes going through, entering keywords in, firefighter, does anything come up? This comes up and that comes up, and okay, that's a good niche, let's try the next one. No, nothing comes up. So we do kind of play around with a few different words, and part of that as well is that we can get a sense of what sub niches might work. So we might put dentist in and find out that actually there's only 6,000 dentists, but in actual fact there's maybe 50,000 dental assistants. Okay, so in the process of doing that, of putting in these varied keywords and seeing which ones have got the biggest matches, we can get a sense of what our Facebook audience is going to be like. So we might go in thinking it's dentists, and it turns out it's actually more dental assistants that is the niche. We might go in thinking that it's chocolate Labradors. It actually turns out that just in general Labrador Retrievers is the niche. Just to give you a quick example of that. Last week I was looking at some designs, and one of the designs that I was going to launch was a t-shirt design that says something along the lines of "Rescue a cat, save 9 lives." And I've not actually looked at that. I've not launched the campaign. I've been busy with some other stuff, including T-Titan. But to give you an example of what I mean, the perfect targeting for that would be if I could find rescue cat centres. So obviously people can go and buy cats, or they can also get cats from these homes that basically look after and rescue cats that have been discarded that other people don't want. And that would be very good targeting if I could take a t-shirt that says rescue a cat, save 9 lives, and match it with Facebook targeting that says let's say the San Jose Cat Rescue Centre. That would be really, really good targeting. What would make the targeting even better, for example, though, is if I could, let's say that when I was doing my research, I saw that there was a Siamese cat rescue centre that had a lot of likes on Facebook. So maybe there was a Siamese cat rescue centre that had, let's say, 100,000 likes, and I stumbled onto it and thought, oh, that's quite a good one. But what I could do is I could take my design, which previously just said rescue a cat, save 9 lives, and I could put a picture of a Siamese cat, which is the breed of cat that could be relevant here. I could put a picture of a Siamese cat alongside that slogan, and I could then use that and target the San Jose Siamese Cat Rescue Centre, or whatever I said, and target it with a design that is not just about rescued cats, but it's about rescued cats that happen to be of the Siamese cat breed. And that would be like the ultimate targeting match. That would be targeting on several levels. So really, a good design is one that fits with our targeting and our Facebook audience, and that's something that you'll see as you do that, as you start to look at Facebook ads. The other thing that makes a good design is text. So text, just works. And I know that when you first come into Teespring and creating designs, you want to do these beautiful designs with a picture of this and a style of that and this beautiful pattern and all these things. It sounds so fun to be a t-shirt designer, but in actual fact what works are these big text heavy slogans, and part of the reason it works is because they stand out on the Facebook newsfeed. So if you're scrolling through the newsfeed and a t-shirt appears with a small image that you can't really make out as the design, you'll just kind of keep on scrolling. But if you're like a mechanic and you scroll down and there's this t-shirt and it just says mechanic in massive letters, you're going to stop and you're going to look to see what the rest of the text says. So text works because part of the reason it works is because it kind of grabs attention on the Facebook newsfeed. And following on from this, another reason text works is that it's easy to create text. So when we look at for design ideas, what we want is something that's easy to replicate. So we don't want lots of clever images or graphics. We don't want some like really artistic image design. We want something simple, maybe a few lines of text and a single icon. So if it was like a firefighter design, we'd have our firefighter slogan, and then we'd have like a firefighter's helmet. If it was like maybe a sports mom or something, moms of like kids who play baseball, we'd have like our slogan, and then we'd have like a picture of a baseball at the bottom. So we want to keep it quite simple. And part of that is just because it just makes it easier for us. Part of it is because that's more what's going to stand out on the Facebook newsfeed. But part of it as well is that if you remember with Teespring, we actually pay per color. So for every additional color that we use in our design, it costs us like an extra $1, and that's only a rough number, but it does, it costs us more and more. And sometimes it can be worth having 3 or 4 colors in our design. It might cost us an extra $2 or $3, but it can be worth doing that if it makes the design stand out, if it makes people want to buy it more. But what we don't want is a design that's very complicated and that's going to use a lot of images, because even designs that are like photos that seem to be black and white, well, there's actually going to be lots of different shades of black and white. So it might seem black and white, which makes it 2 colors, but in practice, black and white can actually be like hundreds or even thousands of colors, which just isn't going to work on a t-shirt design. So it needs to be mostly text, and it needs to be a simple icon that's maybe 1 or 2 colors, 3 or 4 colors max. So rolling this all together, what it means is that we're going to want to have a black t-shirt with white text and perhaps one white icon. Okay, so we can start simple, or possibly black with a white and 2 to 4 bright colors. So if you're going to use multiple colors, I generally suggest that you use bright colors and use them a bit sparingly. So pink, yellow, red, bright green, bright purple. Bright colours work again because they stand out on that newsfeed. But very generally, we're going to want to keep it quite simple, and in a lot of cases, I would say that that's going to make it white only, white text, and maybe one white icon as well. So, if it's a mechanic t-shirt, we might have like a picture of a spanner and some bolts or something like that. If it's an army t-shirt, we might have a picture of an army helmet. If it's a sports team, we might have a picture of like a baseball or a basketball or something like that. But we want to keep it quite simple. And by the way, in case you're wondering why I've put black t-shirt here, and this is something that in most cases you really want to stick with. Well, black is proven to work. So there's been lots of studies that I've done, including one that I've done myself, where I went through all of the top selling t-shirts on Teespring, and I found that the vast majority of them were black t-shirts with, in most cases, white text and a white icon. People just buy black. I suppose it's a popular colour. I suppose it's flattering. I suppose it's something that you can wear in the summer or you can wear in the winter. It doesn't really stain easily. It's just something that works pretty much for any figure or for any kind of location or any kind of person who wants to buy it. So. But in any event, black is just sold on Teespring. It's just it's a rule. So the only time I would use a color other than black is if it was really fitted in with the particular niche. So if I was targeting, for example, a firefighter niche, I might use the color red simply because that's associated with firefighters. If I was targeting, let's say it was something to do with patriotism in the United States, I might offer a few colors, red and blue, for example, which would tie in with the flag. If I was targeting a particular sports team and they had a colour, I might use that colour. Although we're kind of getting into the issue of trademarks and copyrights there, so we need to be careful. But that does bring me on to the final point, which is that we need to make sure that there are no copyright or trademark infringements with our design. And the simplest way to do this is, if you think there's a trademark infringement, if you think you might be stepping on someone's toes, well, you very probably are. Now, there's a number of issues here. Trademark is part of it. Trademark is just when you protect a certain word or phrase. So Microsoft is a protected trademark. I can't, do a t-shirt that's got like the Microsoft logo or indeed the word Microsoft on it, or I'm going to be sued, and that's not going to work for anyone. And that's obvious. We know that big brands are very often trademark their phrases, but it's actually more subtle than that, and I'll save this for another video. We also need to be generally aware of the rough kind of themes and the rough things that are associated with a brand. So I kind of don't want to get too much into the intellectual property and the law side, because obviously I'm not a lawyer apart from anything. But to give you another example of something you couldn't do, you couldn't, for example, look at a sports team and look at their colours. Let's say that they had three colours, red, orange and yellow, for example, and they had a particular slogan that was in a particular font, a style of writing. You couldn't take those colours and put them into the same font that they use and write the word, let's say it was an American football team, write the words I love, let's say it was a Boston team, I love Boston hockey. And it would be quite clear to someone that what you're trying to do there is to mimic in some way that particular sports team, but without doing so so directly that you just use their name. So you have to kind of be careful, and you have to approach these things with respect. And the two ways to find out if you're stepping on people's toes: the first is to do a search on Trademarkia, which is like a trademark site, very easy. Just take a few of the words in your design, the ones that you're maybe concerned about, and put them into Trademarkia and just search and see what comes up. If any matches come up, then you need to, seriously reconsider using those words in your design, because you could be infringing, and that's something that we just don't want to do. The next thing though is to just do a quick search on Google and just see that when you put some of those words in, what comes up. Does a website come up? Does a commercial website come up? Are other people selling t-shirts in lots of different places that use that particular term? Or is it that it's like an official company that when you put the one of the phrases or one of the words on your t-shirt in, you'll see that it's an official company, in which case obviously you can't use it. So a quick Google search and a quick Trademarkia search will definitely point you in the right direction. But just to recap here, what makes a good design? Proven metrics. We want to see ideally sales if it's Teespring, eBay or Amazon. We want to see likes, ads or favorites if it's some of these other sites. We also want to see the lots of the same kind of keywords, icons and phrases appearing in lots of different t-shirt designs within our niche. Ideally we want to see it fit perfectly with our targeting for our Facebook audience. I gave you the example of having a t-shirt that says save a cat, rescue a cat, save 9 lives, and a picture of the Siamese cat, and how that would be perfect if we were able to target rescue centres for Siamese cats. And it's that kind of relevance that you really want to be getting towards. It doesn't always have to be that relevant, often won't be, but just bear that in mind. Text heavy. Don't be doing any, very complicated, clever images or graphics. We want mostly text with perhaps, one icon tops, nothing too complicated. And apart from anything else, it's easy to do, and text grabs attention on the newsfeed more so than a fancy design ever would. Black t-shirt, white text, one white icon, maybe one or two white icons possibly. You might also decide to do white with a splash of another colour, or possibly white with 2 or 3 other colours. Maximum, I would say, would be 4 colours total. And if you do use additional colours beyond just white, I'd say that you use bright colours, because bright works well. And then finally, make sure that you're not infringing any trademarks or copyrights or general intellectual property. This is something that you can do some research on yourself. Take some of the icons, some of the text, some of the phrases on your proposed t-shirt design, search them on Google, search them on Trademarkia, and ensure that there's no one that is going to be pissed off, basically. Excuse my French, but it's quite a serious thing. There's no one that's going to be teed off if you use their design, because that could be a problem. Especially if you start to generate sales and then it comes back and sort of bites you in the backside. So, that pretty much covers it for the introduction. In the next video, I'll start to really look at how we can find good t-shirt designs now that we have a good understanding of what constitutes a good t-shirt design and a rough idea of how the second step, which is choosing and creating t-shirt designs, works. So thanks for watching, and I will catch you in the next video.